I want to call to order the Amberley Village Council meeting of July 10, 2023. Please call the roll.
Richard Bardak. Here. Ben Hunt.
Here.
Tom Muthing.
Here.
Keely Paul.
Here.
Bob Rosen.
Here.
Jay Schatz.
Here.
Dara Wood.
Here.
Scott Larmer.
Here.
Andrew Kakey.
Here.
Brian Bloom. Here. Rick Kay.
And if everyone could please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Welcome, everyone. First item on the agenda is our minutes from our last regularly scheduled meeting. Those were circulated in advance. Are there any comments with respect to those minutes? Seeing none, we can consider the minutes approved. Next item on the agenda is the finance report for May of 2023. Village manager will present that.
Thank you, Mayor. We're talking about the financials for the month of May. For revenues, the village collected $398,000 in the general fund. $183,000 of that was from the earnings tax. So our earnings tax year-to-date collections are $2.1 million. In regards to general revenue, our total year-to-date is $3.3 million. So on the earnings tax side, we've collected about 58% of what we had estimated, and on the general fund side, we've collected 54% of what we estimated. On the expense side, the village's expenses for the month of May total $383,000. Our year-to-date expenditure equals $2.5 million. Our budget for this year is $6.8 million. So thus far, we have collected 37%. We have spent 37% of our resources so far. That leaves us with an unencumbered general fund balance of $6.1 million as of the end of May, and that concludes my report.
Are there any questions for the manager? If not, we'll move on to committee reports, and first committee report will be the Planning Commission.
This will be the second reading of ordinance 2023-6, making changes to the village property maintenance and zoning code. In May of 2022, the Law Committee began discussing various village code changes. The changes stem from resident complaints, questions, the need for clarity in the code on approving certain requests, and the need to bring sections of the village code up to date. Is it related to the presence of trailers throughout the village? Some homeowners in the village have trailers stored on their property, and our code currently only allows certain types of trailers to be stored behind a person's home. This was problematic as a trailer definition wasn't consistent. Our code refers to lawn and garden equipment as trailers, but other areas reference commercial trailers. The consensus of the Law Committee was to limit the size of trailers parked on residential property to be no larger than sufficient to carry a standard lawn tractor. This language was reviewed, and when the Law Committee met in April of 2023, the committee decided to recommend amendments presented to them and referred them to the Planning Commission as outlined in the Village Code. The language was put forth to regulate acceptable trailers to a size of 4 by 8 feet. There wouldn't be a distinction between trailers, only the size. As this covers the zoning code definitions and property maintenance code, the Planning Commission needed to review the proposed changes. On June 5th of this year, the Planning Commission held a public hearing on the proposed changes. Only one resident was present, so most of the discussion was between Planning Commission members and the staff. The Planning Commission expressed support for the proposed changes. The next step is for Village Council to hold a public hearing on the proposed changes, consider resident feedback before passage of the ordinance, and then determine if the changes should be adopted. I believe we had our first public hearing at last month's council meeting. This would be the second.
No, well, we announced at the last council meeting the public hearing. We will hold a public hearing. We announced it at the last council meeting, and it was publicly announced.
All right.
So I would hereby like to call to order the public hearing with respect to the changes to the village code pertaining to property maintenance and zoning, specifically trailers. So calling to order the public hearing at 6:35. Anyone like to address council? Seeing that there is no one to address council, I would like to say that the public hearing is adjourned at 6:35 also. So I turn it back to Councilman Barda.
Just one question. I'm assuming, Scott, we haven't received any feedback from residents on this issue privately?
We have not received I have not received any feedback in regards to the proposal. We had the public hearing at the Planning Commission. I did not receive any feedback on it from there, nor for this council public hearing, no.
Thank you. At this point, I'd make a motion to waive the third reading of ordinance 2023-6, making changes to the village property maintenance and zoning code.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we waive the third reading with respect to ordinance 2023-6, which makes changes to the village code pertaining to property maintenance and zoning. Are there any questions or comments? If not, it has been moved and seconded that we waive the third reading with respect to ordinance 2023-6. Please call the roll.
Richard Bardak.
Yes.
Ben Hunt.
Yes.
Tom Muthing.
Yes.
Keely Paul.
Yes.
Bob Rosen.
Yes.
Jay Schatz.
Yes.
Dara Wood.
Yes.
That concludes.
No, now you make a motion to approve.
Make a motion to approve ordinance 2023-6, making changes to the village property maintenance and zoning code.
Second. Oh, sorry.
Okay, it has been moved and seconded that we adopt ordinance 2023-6, making changes to the village code pertaining to property maintenance and zoning. Any questions or comments? If not, it has been moved and seconded that we adopt ordinance 2023-6. Please call the roll.
Richard Bardak.
Yes.
Ben Hunt.
Yes.
Tom Muthing.
Yes.
Keely Paul.
Yes.
Bob Rosen.
Yes.
Jay Schatz.
Yes.
Dara Wood.
Yes.
That concludes my report.
And so that particular ordinance will go into effect 45 days from this evening, which is required by law. Okay, next committee report is the Finance Committee, and as Chair of the Finance Committee, I will present that. The first item on the agenda is the approval of the tax budget for 2024. The tax budget is a process that we go through annually. The primary purpose of the tax budget is we submit the tax budget to the county, and the purpose is solely to demonstrate the need for our property taxes and the tax with respect to the police levy. And so our main budgeting process we go through is in the period of October and November. So the way we prepare a tax budget is we take the budget that we prepared the prior year and we just basically update it for expected inflation and any other things that we are aware of, but it's very minor. And so then we submit that to the county to demonstrate the need. So I hereby would like to make a motion that we approve resolution 2023-15 approving the tax budget, which will allow the village manager to submit that tax budget to the county for their needs.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we adopt resolution 2023-15 approving the tax budget for 2024. Are there any questions or comments? Not, it's been moved and seconded that we adopt resolution 2023-15 approving the tax budget for 2024. Oh, we have to hold a public hearing. Thank you. Thank you for giving me the timeout sign. I very much appreciate that. Okay, so I would first like to open the public hearing with respect to the tax budget. It is currently 6:40, and I hereby open the public hearing. Is there anyone that would like to make a comment with respect to the tax budget? Okay, seeing that no one would like to make a comment, I hereby would like to close the tax budget or the public hearing with respect to the tax budget, and it's also 6:40. Okay. Yeah. Having made that major faux pas, now I would like to say that it has been moved and seconded that we approve Resolution 2023-15, approving the tax budget for 2024. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Be it noted that that resolution passes unanimously. Next item on the agenda for the Finance Committee is the resolution designating bank depositories. This is a process that we go through every 5 years as required by state law. And the bank depository is our main banking relationship for Amberley, which for the past 10 years has been with PNC. And so what we do is, with this coming up, we submit or we issue a request for proposals from various banks. We requested proposals from 6 banks. We received proposals from 5. 3 of those proposals were deemed to be really non-responsive because they really did not respond to our specific questions. We had 2 responses which were responsive. One was from Huntington that was responsive, and one was from First Financial Bank. Those 2 proposals were then compared, and the Huntington, the Finance Committee reviewed those, and the Huntington Bank proposal was deemed to be by far superior. So the Finance Committee recommended to Council that we appoint Huntington as our depository for the next 5 years. The other 5 banks that did respond, we will still have some relationship with them, but the main banking relationship would be with Huntington. So I would hereby move that we approve Resolution 2023-16 designating Huntington as our main bank depository.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we approve Resolution 2023-16. Are there any questions or comments?
Is there some reason why PNC did not appropriately respond?
Well, actually, the staff tried to be very diligent and actually called on a number of occasions to PNC, and they said, at first, this was even before we got any proposal, then they sent this one in. So we also have our main relationship with PNC is also with respect to investments. And so after we really did not get any response from PNC, we called our relationship manager with respect to investments, who's out of Columbus, and he profusely apologized for this and was embarrassed. So this was really an oversight on their part. So, it is what it is. They have done a great job with us with respect to investments. I'm sure Huntington is going to be interested with respect to the investment relationship, and this is something we're just going to have to watch. So it's been moved and seconded that we approve Resolution 2023-16. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Be it noted that that resolution passes unanimously, and that concludes my report of the Finance Committee. We'll now move on to the Streets, Public Utilities, and Sewers Committee.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The Streets, Public Utilities, and Sewers Committee would like to introduce Resolution 2023-17. This resolution will authorize a change order with respect to the Farmcrest and Kincaid reconstruction project. In the course of the project, as the street was torn up, the contractor found a number of cases where the water had seeped underneath and had undercut the bed, and that resulted in them having to bring in extra fill and doing extra excavation types of work. We had originally had an estimate that work was going to be done at about $110,000. As it turned out, the final number, as noted in the resolution, is $130,000. This is the absolute, since the project is nearing completion, that number is not going to increase, and therefore that is the number that's in the resolution. So on behalf of the Streets Committee, I would like to recommend that Council approve Resolution 2023-17 so that this change order can go into effect and we can complete the project.
Second.
Okay, it has been moved and seconded that we adopt Resolution 2023-17, authorizing the village manager to execute a change order on the forward development contract for the Farmcrest project. Are there any questions or comments? If not, it has been moved and seconded that we adopt Resolution 2023-17. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Be it noted that that resolution passed unanimously. And for those residents that are watching this in the future, the project is still underway, and we very much appreciate people, our residents and even non-residents, that have avoided the area during this period of construction. I think it will be another 4 to 5 weeks before the final coat of the pavement is on the street, and so we would really appreciate people to continue to avoid North and South Farmcrest during this period. The residents have been very patient during this long construction project, and I'm sure they're very thankful that it is almost over and that it is no longer dusty and everything around their homes. So we're almost there. We'll now move on.
And that concludes my
Oh,
report.
I'm sorry. We'll now move on to the Health, Education, and Welfare Committee.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I just wanted to give a quick update on a question that Councilmember Hunt had asked regarding the solid waste plan at the last meeting. And you had asked about previous goals that were exceeded regarding the diversion rates and how they were reached. So Scott reached out to Michelle Balls, the solid waste manager at Hamilton County Resource, and she said the goal was 25% diversion rate for residential and commercial, and they're actually at 33%. And a large part of this is from the commercial recycling from businesses, especially cardboard. But also the programs like we have in Amberley have succeeded in pulling that number up as well. So just wanted to follow back on that. And then I wanted to announce that the Health, Education, Welfare Committee will be meeting. We already have the next 2 meetings set to discuss the proposed changes on the human rights ordinance from 2018. So July 24th and August 22nd, we wanted to get both meetings on the calendar already. So we had ample time to kind of process and ask questions. And we've asked our solicitor to take a look at what the suggested changes are before the meeting. So he'll be a little prepared for some legal questions when we go in. And if there are other questions that people have, they can feel free to attend, obviously, or email me, and I can share those during the meeting. And my last item is about We Thrive, and the pickleball courts have been striped, the extra 2 courts. So, and earlier today, I believe there were people playing, and then when I pulled up, there was a group. It looked like a lesson was going on. And I know that the pickleball people on Tuesday evenings will appreciate it greatly. Last week, or 2 weeks ago, we were trying to play pickleball in an on-stripe court because we had a good turnout, so it will be nice. So pickleball Tuesday evening, 6:30 to 8 p.m. If it is raining, we are then over at the J from 7 to about 8:30. And then yoga on the lawn is going on Thursdays from 6 to 7:30, so I'll give that a little plug as well. And that concludes my report.
Are there any questions? Not, we'll move on to the manager's report.
Thank you, Mayor. First item under the manager's report is ordinance 2023-7. This is adopting and enacting the supplement to the Code of Ordinances. This is a requirement by it's a requirement, and we do this annually to update our code. So we pull all of the legislation that council has approved for the past year, and then we also pick up any legislation at the state that affects us from an Ohio Revised Code standpoint. It's necessary for council to adopt the codification, which is what we refer to, and this is the code that the village operates under. So before you this evening is ordinance 2023-7, and it has been reviewed by our law director, reviewed by staff, and it is ready for council's adoption. My recommendation would be to waive the 3 readings of the ordinance and then make a motion to approve it.
Okay, I hereby move that we waive the third reading with respect to ordinance 2023-7, adopting and enacting the supplement to the Code of Ordinances.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we waive the third reading with respect to ordinance 2023-7. Are there any questions or comments? Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we waive the third reading with respect to ordinance 2023-7. Please call the roll.
Richard Bardak. Ben Hunt.
Yes.
Tom Muthing.
Yes.
Keely Paul. Yes. Bob Rosen.
Yes.
Jay Schatz.
Yes.
Dara Wood.
Yes.
And then I hereby move that we approve ordinance 2023-7, adopting and enacting the supplement to the Code of Ordinances.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we adopt ordinance 2023-7. Are there any questions or comments? If not, it's been moved and seconded that we adopt ordinance 2023-7. Please call the roll.
Richard Bardak. Yes. Ben Hunt.
Yes.
Tom Muthing.
Yes.
Keely Paul. Yes. Bob Rosen.
Yes.
Jay Schatz.
Yes.
Dara Wood.
Yes.
Thank you, Mayor. The next item I want to talk about, a couple items out of the manager's report. The first being the personnel changes in the maintenance and fire department. I'm really excited that we have secured 2 new hires for our maintenance and fire department, and they come highly qualified. And in the environment that we're currently working, where there's a lot of competition and scarce resources, I think we've done pretty well with these 2 new hires. So the first one is Christo Wallace. He comes to us from a background of maintaining golf courses, as well as the Cincinnati Reds fields, as well as other baseball fields. So he brings a lot of experience to us, and he also just put himself through fire school. So he comes as a certified firefighter, which is an additional plus for us. So he will begin his duties on July the 24th. And our second hire is a current employee with the city of Mount Healthy. His name is Nick Plackey, and Nick is also a certified firefighter. So we did well on that end. And he has had maintenance experience. He has worked for the city of Mount Healthy doing snow and ice control, and then since 2019 has worked full-time for their maintenance department. So he brings a wealth of experience to us in addition. And his start date will be August the 7th. The downside of the 2 hires is that the state of Ohio changed regulations as it relates to the commercial driver's license, the CDL. It used to be that when we hired somebody and they did not have their CDL, which is typical, we would train them and get them tested, get them through the process, and they could obtain their CDL in a few month period. Now the change is that you have to go off to school to be trained on the CDL, or you have to have your own training program, and it takes on quite a few liabilities from my standpoint. So we're going to be sending our 2 new hires off to CDL school, which is going to last probably at least a month. So they'll not be available to us for that. I think it's going to be the month of September when they'll be going. And there's quite a few hurdles that have to be jumped, very different than what it has been in the past. So, but we're just fortunate that we're able to secure the services of Christo and Nick, and excited that they'll be joining our team here at the village. And then the second item I wanted to mention was I wanted to just address the officer-involved shooting that our police department was involved with that occurred on May the 22nd, and when we were providing mutual aid to the city of Reading. Our Amberley Village Police Department demonstrated exemplary professionalism and adherence to all the protocols in handling the incident. And it was just a few weeks ago that prosecuting attorney Melissa Powers released the investigative report prepared by the Hamilton County Sheriff's Office, and concurred that our officer was justified in his actions. So this brings closure to this particular incident. So primarily it's the affirmation that our officers responded properly, and that the actions were in response to an immediate threat to public safety. But it's also an opportunity for us to reflect how well the incident was managed, and how proud I am that the investigation was handled and our village was able to assist everybody that was involved. So I just want to talk a little bit about that. Our police department's response was, I think it was swift, it was measured, it was one that ensured the safety of the public as well as the officers that were involved. This involved a bank robber. He was armed with a weapon, and he was endangering innocent lives, which is why we were responding. And it left one of our officers no choice but to use lethal force. This is a high-pressure situation, and the primary concern is to try to neutralize the threat and prevent any future harm in that scenario. So it was mutual aid. Other police agencies were on the scene with us. We were deployed, quickly established a perimeter around the home of the offender, and that is part of the process, part of the protocol process. It minimized any kind of risk to any bystanders and to the public. And what was probably critical here was there was effective communication among those officers on the scene, because it wasn't just Amberley and Reading, there were others present as well. But it was also effective communication with incident command, which led to a successful resolution in this situation. So our officers acted with remarkable courage and composure in carrying out the situation. Obviously, they assessed the situation, but this was done very quickly and accurately, and they recognized that the threat that was posed by the offender's weapon, and so the decision to use lethal force was a last resort, and it was only taken after reasonable alternatives had been exhausted, and there really was not anything else that was going to take care of this particular situation, even though we were prepared for a non-lethal situation. Following the shooting, the sheriff's office promptly initiated an investigation, which is typical whenever there's a situation like this. But once again, that was just another commitment to transparency as well as accountability in this situation. So they thoroughly reviewed all of the information and pretty much confirmed the departmental policies and procedures that the village police department followed were complied with. The investigation also sought to determine if using force was justified under these particular circumstances, and that was an affirmative as well. So the police department's handling of the situation, I think, is a testament to their dedication to serving, and certainly a dedication to protecting our community. The leadership of the department under Chief Wallace, and certainly our other Amberley Village police personnel in this incident follow-up was remarkable from my perspective. I know the chief had to make difficult decisions. He made some impressive decisions. He fully utilized his contacts as well as his resources, and he also kept me informed as these difficult decisions were unfolding. From my perspective, it was abundantly clear that the support that was shown to our officers that were involved was probably really paramount to the short and the long-term outcomes for our village, especially in administering resources to them. So we were quick to respond to our officers who were involved, showing them that we were supportive of what had occurred. These types of incidents typically revolve around communication, whether it's up, whether it's down, in all directions, department-wide, other jurisdictions, and I think our department excelled in all of these areas. And even though it was a very tragic outcome in the situation, I'm grateful that none of our officers were injured and that our training paid off. And I know council is always very supportive of training in the police department, and this is one of those situations where it paid dearly. Yeah. So just in closing, I think on every front, the village is to be commended for how it was managed, and the prosecutor's conclusions verified our handling of the situation. I just wanted to report that out to council, and that concludes my report.
Are there any questions for the manager? Now we'll move on to the mayor's report and just a couple items. Okay. Keep that in here. I think 2 meetings ago I mentioned that we had received a grant from Hampton County for the prairie, as well as the striping of the pickleball courts and the new fencing for the baseball fields. I'm happy to report that we've gotten another grant that the Chris Frisch and the village manager were instrumental in getting. This is for $10,000, which will also be for the prairie, which will allow us to do additional trees and additional benches, which when we talked about the prairie garden, we said we wanted to do something, and this is what we said to Hampton County, who gave us the initial grant. We wanted to do something that would continue to encourage physical activity as well as mental health, and we really think that we are able to now put in place something that is completely consistent with what we wanted to strive for down at Amberley Green on these 6 acres on this one particular portion of the property that would never be subject to development in any of our plans. So again, the initial part of the prairie will be done in September, when the grass will be killed, and then the prairie will be planted in November or October, late October, and then the trees and the benches will be installed next spring. So I think this is going to be a great thing for the village. The only other thing I wanted to mention was the next Environmental Stewardship Committee meeting is August 7th, which we scheduled that quite a while ago, before the August 8th special election. So the August 7th Environmental Stewardship Committee meeting will no longer be down in the community room. We'll have to hold that in the conference room, since they will be preparing for the August 8th election. And that concludes my mayor's report. Are there any questions? Okay, is there any new business?
Mr. Mayor, I just wanted to announce to everyone this evening an update on the Hattenback Scholarship for village employees. Many of you know that this was created in the name of the former council member Ed Hattenbach by his family in order to honor his dedication to public service. We're excited to announce that the family has chosen Nathaniel Fritsch, the son of Village Zoning and Project Administrator Chris Fritsch, to win that Hattenbach Scholarship this year. That concludes my...
Thank you. Anything else? If not, I would hereby like to make a motion that council would adjourn into executive session to discuss a matter regarding an imminent court action is allowed by Ohio Revised Code Section 121-22G3.
So moved. Or seconded, sorry.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we adjourn into executive session to discuss this imminent court action. Please call the roll.
Richard Bardak. Ben Hunt.
Yes.
Tom Muthing.
Yes.
Keely Paul. Yes. Bob Rosen.
Yes.
Jay Schatz.
Yes.
Dara Wood.
Yes.
And so we're now going to adjourn into executive session. We thank you for your attendance this evening.